We begin with this breaking news. HPD says a barricade situation near Punch Bowl has ended. We're still awaiting the exact details, but police say they responded to this incident just around 9 this morning. Sources tell HNN that a man may have been armed with knives and possibly a sword. Authorities did have to close Emerson Street from Prospect to Ward Avenue, but we expect those to be reopened. Keep checking your HNN digital platforms for updates.
Aloha and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for watching This Is Now. We're just getting word of another national story with a Hawaii tie. So a model who fatally stabbed her boyfriend to death in Miami has been arrested in Hawaii. Dylan Ancheta joins us with the breaking details. Dylan.
Yeah, Ashley, we're still working on gathering these details, but we've learned U.S. Marshals arrested Courtney Clenny this morning in Hilo. She's an OnlyFans and Instagram model with more than 2 million followers, according to a report by the Miami Herald. She's accused of stabbing and killing her boyfriend during a domestic dispute in Miami back in April. The Herald said her arrest here in the islands was confirmed by her defense attorney. He also said she was in the islands while undergoing rehab for substance abuse and post-traumatic stress disorder. And again, we're still working on gathering more details surrounding her arrest. But again, we do know she was taken into custody in the Hilo area, and sources tell us Hawaii Island police will hold her until she's extradited back to Florida. For This Is Now, I'm Dylan Ancheta.
I know a lot of folks on the mainland have been following that story pretty closely. All right, let's move on to some other news.
That's right. A 75-year-old Maui man arrested for the brutal rape and murder of a teenager in California was just in court.
They're going to make arrangements as quickly as they can to come and take Mr. Ramirez.
Gary Ramirez was in court today for his extradition hearing.
I'm asking for a date within 30 days of today, essentially a deadline for California to pick him up.
Last Tuesday around 5:30 in the evening, he was arrested. This is a look at his current mugshot. Now here's what he looked like 40 years ago when he allegedly kidnapped, raped, and murdered 15-year-old Karen Stitt. Stitt was last seen alive near a bus stop in Sunnyvale, California, back in 1982.
A delivery driver had found her body dumped over a wall and situated near bushes. She was found nude with her blouse and jacket bounding her wrists and legs together.
Investigators say the teenager was stabbed 59 times.
Based on the evidence at the scene, we believe that the motive was sexually based.
Authorities say it's still unclear at this time if the two knew each other. A break in the case came in 2019 when a detective got a tip that Stitt's killer was likely one of 4 brothers from Fresno. In April, Ramirez was identified as the likely source of blood and bodily fluid evidence connected to the case. And the Santa Clara's DA's crime lab confirmed the identification last week. Ramirez grew up in Fresno and served time in the Air Force in the 1970s. After leaving the military, he lived in San Francisco, San Diego, Colorado, and Hawaii. If convicted, he faces the possibility of life behind bars without any possibility of parole.
Waiving his right to have a hearing contesting the extradition hearing.
Today, the judge set a status hearing on his extradition.
September 7th, status on extradition date. September 7th at 8 in the morning, courtroom 4.
Well, the U.S. House this Friday is expected to vote on the Inflation Reduction Act. That's that sweeping healthcare, climate, and tax bill. Hawaii Congressman Ed Case is flying back to Washington for that vote. Now, Congressman, tell us how this bill will address inflation for Americans and Hawaii families.
Well, this bill is just a game changer on a number of fronts. It's an incredible bill. It's had a long history of going through Congress, but as it came back from the Senate after we passed it out of the House, it is really a landmark bill on a number of levels. I mean, it's the most sweeping and most comprehensive climate change bill that we have ever passed, with almost $400 billion worth of credits and spending and other incentives to convert over to clean energy. That will have a direct impact on households, where we expect that it will actually reduce energy costs as we essentially assist all of us, including financially, to convert over better forms of energy. So that's a clear inflation fighting component of this bill, not to mention being good for our planet. The second that I'm just really, really happy about, because it's been a 20-year effort on my part and others, is to control the cost of prescription drugs, especially for our kupuna, who have just seen astronomical and unacceptable increases from the prescription drug companies. And one of the biggest pukas there has been the inability to negotiate from Medicare, one of the largest purchasers of prescription drugs, lower costs for high bulk purchases. And so this bill finally allows that with the most important drugs. And it also provides a continuation of the subsidies of healthcare premiums for many, many families. That is a definite inflation fighting component of this bill.
Going back to climate, talk about the timing of this bill's passage and what we're seeing just around the nation and the world in terms of these severe weather events.
Well, I don't know if you could not look at the last few months alone in Hawaii, in our country, and in the world, and not realize that the climate change is not just some removed threat that's going to face us once in a while down the road. It's now, it's happening, it's real, it is caused by us. And it can be solved by us. And that's what this bill does, is to put us into the leadership in the world, where frankly our leadership has been lagging, to say, no, we're going to invest. We collectively are going to invest in the solution to this.
We're seeing Republicans say, this bill is just more excessive spending. It's going to put us in a worse position financially as a nation. What's your response to that?
Well, first of all, one of the incredible parts of this bill is that this bill is not going to put us in a worse financial situation. This bill actually will generate net revenues. In other words, we're not going to be increasing our national debt because of this bill. This bill is what we say in Washington, fully paid for, meaning that we have fairly provided for the revenues that will pay for the spending in this bill, and we've done it in a very, very fair way, I think. We have, first of all, taken the savings from prescription drug controls through negotiating with Medicare, and those savings have gone back into paying for other parts of this bill. I think we also did the right thing by saying to the biggest and wealthiest corporations around our world, who in some cases are paying no real taxes at all, that no, there has to be a minimum amount of tax that we all pay. And that's a 15% minimum tax level. That's consistent with our agreements throughout the rest of the world. I think that's fair. And so this is not going to worsen our deficits and debt. In fact, it specifically improves them. And I think that that's a major plus of this bill.
All right, Hawaii Congressman Ed Case joining us this afternoon. Safe travels back to D.C.
Thank you so much.
Today, we also had a conversation with U.S. Senator Mazie Hirono. I wanted to play out a portion of that interview from Sunrise.
You recently introduced a bill that would put term limits on Supreme Court justices. Why do we need that?
We have a extremist right-wing majority in the Supreme Court. They are outcome focused, meaning that they decide what they want to do first and then determine how they're going to justify that. And that is why this is a court that is very happy to overturn decades of precedent. For example, the Roe decision, the EPA administrative decision that helps the EPA to make sure that our air remains clean, and that also just shunted aside New York's gun safety law. So this is what I would call an extreme Supreme Court, and we need to do Supreme Court reform. And one of the reforms is to put term limits, reasonable term limits on the court.
Yeah, and you're back here at home. Obviously, you're watching the local races, including the race for governor. Are you endorsing anyone, Senator?
No.
Okay, well, simple answer. I'm assuming you're anyone on the Democratic side. I would imagine that's who you're pulling for.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Because I think the Democrats really care about our communities and will do things just like in the bill that we just passed.
Well, former President Trump is making headlines again today. For more on that, let's bring in Hawaii News Now's White House correspondent John Decker. Now, John, the former president refused to answer questions in a New York State civil investigation today. What's going on there?
That's right. This is a civil fraud investigation being conducted by the New York State Attorney General. After much legal wrangling, a court determined that it is proper for the former president to submit himself to a deposition. And today was that day. During the course of the deposition, the president read a statement, invoked his Fifth Amendment constitutional right not to incriminate himself. And that was the end of it. No questions were actually posed to the president during the course of this deposition.
So what does that mean for the civil investigation as well as the parallel criminal investigation into his business dealings?
There is a parallel criminal investigation. It's being conducted by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. I think that parallel investigation actually is why the president's lawyers instructed him to invoke his Fifth Amendment rights. Reason being is because anything that he said during the course of this civil deposition could be used in the criminal case that is being prosecuted by the Manhattan DA. What does it mean for the civil case? It's not good for the president. Why is that? The judge will instruct the jury that the fact that the president took the Fifth Amendment in the civil case, there can be a negative inference associated with that. And what that simply means is that everything that the Attorney General of the state of New York claims as it relates to the president, as it relates to his companies, because he took the Fifth Amendment, must be deemed by the jury as true. And so that's not good for the president as it relates to this case, which involves the business practices of the Trump organization.
Another big story involving the former president. The FBI raided Mar-a-Lago on Monday. What did we learn from this search? Anything?
Well, there have been no statements that have been put out by the Attorney General, Merrick Garland. There have been no statements put out by the FBI or the FBI Director, Christopher Wray. But what we know at this point is that there was a focus and is a focus on classified information contained in documents that were still in the president's possession. You may recall back in January of this year, the president conveyed to the National Archives 12 boxes of government documents that the National Archives said should have been turned over to the National Archives. Well, the president was still in possession of a significant number of government documents, and perhaps some of those were deemed to be classified, and that is what we've learned just in the past 24 hours.
Yeah, and of course, many Republicans outraged by this, calling the search politically motivated. Any evidence of that?
There is no evidence for that claim. I understand why politicians say these things, but there are no facts to back up that claim. There are no facts to back up claims from Democrats that this means that the president most certainly will be charged with a crime, most certainly will be indicted by a grand jury. There's no certainty of that at all. In fact, you may recall in 2016, the FBI did a search of Hillary Clinton's email server, and no charges were ultimately brought against the former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Similarly, perhaps we'll have to wait and see how this investigation ultimately bears itself out, but perhaps no charges will be brought against the former president either.
All right, Hawaii News Now's White House correspondent John Decker. Appreciate the time, John.
Thanks a lot, Ashley.
New at noon, China's ambassador to Australia faced a grilling by reporters at Australia's National Press Club. One of the issues that was raised was China expanding ties in the Pacific, especially with the Solomon Islands. The ambassador denied any plans for a military base there.
There is no intention for China to set up the so-called military base in Solomon Islands.
And we've got even more developing news from the Asia Pacific. China's military continues to conduct exercises in the waters and air around Taiwan. This comes just 1 week after U.S. Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited the island. Here's Selena Wang with more.
China's military is still conducting exercises around Taiwan. After Pelosi's visit, China said that these exercises would end on Sunday, but they've continued and it's unclear just how long they'll last for. China's military said the ongoing drills will focus on joint blockade and supply operations. But military experts tell me the long-term impact of all of this goes beyond the coming days and weeks, but could be months or years. They tell me we're entering a new phase, that Beijing has used Pelosi's visit as an excuse to up the ante and over the long term increase not just the frequency, but also the aggressiveness of their military activity around Taiwan. Military experts also say that the size and scale of these drills means that these were planned far in advance of Pelosi's trip being leaked. But they say her trip was a perfect opportunity for Beijing to go significantly farther in their military exercises than they have in the past. These military drills encircle Taiwan in what Beijing is calling a practice blockade. We've seen China's military flood the seas and skies around Taiwan with both warplanes and ships. For the first time, missiles even went over Taiwan Island. We've heard from Taiwan's foreign minister, who said on Tuesday that China was using the military drills as a playbook to prepare for the invasion of Taiwan. At a press conference in Taipei, the foreign minister said China is, quote, conducting large-scale military exercises and missile launches, as well as cyber attacks, disinformation, and economic coercion in an attempt to weaken public morale in Taiwan. After the drills conclude, China may try to routinize its action in an attempt to wreck the long-term status quo across the Taiwan Strait. Now, Beijing's aggressive actions have won a lot of praise among nationalists at home. It's unified the country amid ongoing COVID and economic challenges, but it's also further antagonized Taiwan and many of its neighbors, and of course, the U.S. Selena Wang, CNN, Beijing.
Thank you, Selena, for that update. Also wanted to alert you all to a programming note. This Saturday, we've been talking about it a lot, of course, being the primary election. We're going to have a special edition of This Is Now. It's going to be on your digital platforms at 2 o'clock. We're going to have all sorts of insight and in-depth coverage of what to expect as the races unfold and those vote counts come in. We're going to have special guests and all sorts of information you will need to know if you have not cast your ballot yet. By 2 o'clock on Saturday, you better have by that point. You will only have hours left if you haven't. Again, that's at 2 o'clock. We'll have live streaming coverage all evening and night long as well here at Hawaii News Now. Ashley's going to be on a special assignment as well. And then several reporters throughout the islands getting all the information you need to know. So keep checking your HNN digital platforms all day long Saturday and on air on KHNL and KGMB as well. All right, we got to take you live outside. We have a developing weather situation out there, a red flag warning. You can see our camera bouncing around just a bit out there. I saw some more wobbles a moment ago. I'm going to turn things over to our Billy V, who's in for Guy Hoggy today with the latest developments on that and our 7-day forecast.
Give you an idea of what's coming up for you in the next 7 days. We'll get to the alert sign here in just a moment. 15 to 30 mile per hour winds, lots of sunshine. We got 15 to 25, and then they kind of lighten up as we get into the weekend. Even Monday a little bit lighter, and Monday, Tuesday they get real light. Easterlies 5 to 10 miles per hour. So some nice conditions, but the alert now. First alert for you, we do have a red flag warning, and this is for all leeward areas. That means that fires could develop and could spread quickly. You notice that goes from Volcano all the way up to Mahukona over on Hawaii Island, the leeward sides as you go up the island chain. There's low humidity, gusty winds, and dry brush. So use some caution. Once again, red flag warning that's in effect from 10 o'clock this morning until 6 o'clock this evening.
Thank you, Billy V, for that update. And you can also check your HNN digital platforms for that. We have an awesome weather app. If you've never downloaded it, you can get all your first alerts right there. Let's see what else the internet is talking about today. And this one is near and dear to my heart. A major piece of sports memorabilia is going up for grabs, and it's gonna cost a pretty penny.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. The Chicago Bulls jersey worn by none other than Michael Jordan. He wore this during the first game of the 1998 NBA Finals. It's being auctioned off. Jordan and the Bulls beat the Utah Jazz in that championship season. it was also the last championship Jordan won for Chicago. And you know, it's near and dear to my heart. I say that because I have such vivid memories of Michael Jordan from that era. Everyone does our age, right?
Illinois boy.
Yep. And all my friends in Chicagoland area as well, really close to them. The auction house calls the jersey, quote, one of the most significant items from the Michael Jordan's career. It's such a classic look, too. I mean, it's almost its own brand in itself, the red jersey with the 23. It is its own brand. Air Jordans, what am I talking about? It's expected to reach $5 million.
Wow.
Oh, I'm never going to get that. $5 million. So that's quite a pretty penny, to say the least. It could be one of the most expensive auction items of sports memorabilia ever, or at least in a very long time.
The Illinois jackpot winner could buy it.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I'm sure he'd love that.
Yeah.
Well, Beyonce is thanking Madonna for lending the iconic melody from the iconic song Vogue to Beyonce's new Break My Soul remix. Now, Madonna posted on Instagram a photo of gorgeous flowers from Beyonce and a card saying, quote, "Thank you, Queen. I'm so grateful for you. You have opened so many doors for so many women. You are a masterpiece genius." Now, the new Break My Soul collab is named the Queen's Remix, and it includes Beyonce shoutouts to her sister Solange, Lizzo, Grace Jones, Aretha Franklin, and her former Destiny's Child bandmate, Kelly Rowland.
Okay, so I was a little confused when I saw the story headline for that. I thought it was about Madonna's new album, which I have downloaded some of those singles, which Get Into the Groove is one of them, and it's really cool, like I was telling you before the show. It's definitely got some of the old sounds to it, but definitely invokes a lot of new pop culture elements as well. So, Beyonce and Madonna,
Teaming
both
up.
two things I need to download more of,
And
I guess.
Vogue, oh yeah.
Oh, what a great song.
Yeah.
One of my favorite music videos and live performances of all time.
Absolutely. Well, Red Lobster found another crustacean of a different color, and this one won't become someone's dinner. So the restaurant chain says it discovered a second orange lobster. Now, orange lobsters are said to be really rare, about 1 out of every 30 million. And the seafood chain says it found 2 in the last month. Now, experts say lobsters get their coloring from foods they eat, and these 2 orange lobsters were found in the same part of Mississippi. Now, you'll love this, John. Red Lobster named the 2 Cheddar and Biscuit.
Yes!
After their favorite non-fishy side dish, the biscuit. Oh, Biscuit is expected to be on display at Ripley's Aquarium.
Oh, yeah. I do love those cheddar biscuits.
I know you do.
All right. Another new product out there that we need to talk about, and this one coming from Coca-Cola, a new flavor, and the company says it tastes like stuff dreams are made of.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Coke is announcing Dream World, a drink inspired by, quote, the playfulness and brightness of dreams. Yeah, okay.
Whatever that means.
Yeah, sure, Coke. The company's spokesperson who talked to CNN says the drink adds a dash of vibrant flavors and a regular taste of Coke. Dream World is Coke's latest concept flavor. Of course, there was Starlight. Okay, I tried it. And then there was Bite. That one was based off of Pixels. Starlight based off of space. They're getting creative here. This limited run new Dream-inspired Coke is in store shelves until August 15th.
All right, some good news real quick.
Yes, please.
Well, celebrating its 90th birthday today, Lego unveiled a 94,128-piece Lego birthday cake. There it is. The cake, featuring 9 layers representing the 9 decades of Lego play, was built by employees and put on display at the Lego house in Denmark, home of the Lego brick. Now, the birthday will be marked with events at its stores around the world, and the family-owned company was founded in 1932, and the Lego brick was first produced in its current form in 1958. Lego produces roughly 100 billion bricks each year and employs around 24,000 people worldwide.
I would easily say Legos is my favorite toy.
Yes, but they're so expensive these days.
So expensive. You're right. You guys, that's it for This Is Now. As you just witnessed so much news unfolding here at HNN. Keep checking those HNN digital platforms for updates.